Hi, it's Rob Brown here with our Influencers in Accounting podcast. On behalf of the Accounting Influencers Podcast Network, going out to 150 countries all over the world, I'm thrilled to have with me today a special guest from a different part of the world, Harvee Pene. Hello, sir.
G'day, how you doing?
We're doing great. Harvee, tell the audience a little bit about you, your background, and where you're at.
Hey team, well, officially dialing in from the Gold Coast, Australia, hence the very Stevo and g'day. So welcome to everyone in their 150 countries. Formally, I'm an accountant, an author, a TEDx speaker, and I have the privilege of helping accountants turn their intellectual property into books and videos. And such a privilege to be here today, Rob.
Great to have you, Harvee. Let's start off by asking what kind of shape you feel the accounting profession is in right now. You talk to accountants all the time. How are they doing?
Yeah, it's very interesting post the world's or the accounting profession post COVID, Rob. I feel there's definitely a sense of, I dare say the word tiredness. We've been taken through some challenging times and have been forced with our clients to guide them through to better days. And so my wish is that accountants can start using all the vast intellectual property that they've got and all the experiences and the case studies and strategies in order to help generate more results for their clients. And what I found from my period of public practice, Rob, is that when we generate and focus on getting more results for our clients, we end up generating more income for ourselves, more impact, and more inbound opportunities. So it's a bit of a virtuous cycle.
Got it. And let's be personal for just a moment, Harvee. You and I have had some conversations about our mortality and our brush with death. You've been through cancer. I've been through a stroke. It's interesting how your mindset changes, isn't it, when you've felt a little bit more mortal?
It's a bit of a wake-up call, like COVID was for many of us. I remember it as if it was yesterday, Rob. 2015.
Yeah.
I had just bought my first accounting firm. I had just started writing my first book, Cashed Up. We had just won one of the top 100, or an award for being recognized as one of the top 100 companies in Australia. I had met my now wife. And I felt like I was on top of the world. You know, at 30 years old, how do you feel, Rob? Like kind of invincible or bulletproof.
Yeah.
And I felt a lump. Felt a lump in a part of my body where us men, if you're listening in, especially don't want to feel anything abnormal.
Sure.
And it was in that moment that I was being blindsided by cancer, testicular cancer, Rob. And had this kind of really challenging moment like you may have had with your stroke experience of lying on that hospital bed thinking, well, you know, is this it? And
this is not how I plan things to go, is it?
Not at all. And, you know, we're accountants and we're used to doing reconciliations, right, Rob? And at that moment, lying on that hospital bed, I had to do a reconciliation of my own, not a zero or mild one, but a life reconciliation. And the question I had to ask myself, and question I'd love to maybe give as a gift to those listening in, is if today was the last day of your life, would you be happy with what you've left behind? And for me, that was a really sobering kind of moment, not just personally as a human being and as a future father. I wanted to have my own family. Not only as an accountant and as an accounting firm owner, but just as a global citizen. And that was a real wake-up call for me to find out, well, how can I embed more meaning into my life? How can I embed more purpose into my work that I do and how I show up as an accountant every day? And how can I maybe extract a little bit more impact on the people around me, whether that's the team I had the privilege of serving or the clients that we were also in a position of serving every day. So in many ways, it was a wonderful transformation in retrospect.
Yeah, and it sometimes takes a life-changing event like that to recalibrate your views on legacy and stuff. It speaks a lot to mental health, mental well-being. We hear of the Great Resignation. Quiet quitting now is this concept of just doing the bare minimum, forgetting discretionary effort, but just doing what you're paid to do in order to get something back of your work-life balance, you'll be well aware of that concept, Harvey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was really interesting that, I lost a part of me on that hospital bed that day, Rob, but also found a part of me.
Yeah.
And this is where cancer, in essence, was a gift, because I found my purpose, my reason for why I get out of bed every morning. And I realized that's to change lives. And you mentioned this interesting word of life-changing. We have these life-changing experiences in our lives that are these wake-up calls. And so when I found my life's purpose, which is to change lives, my own, my family's, my teams, and our clients, and hopefully the world's, it really had this amazing sort of trickle effect or flow-on effect on kind of everything and everyone around me, including and especially my accounting firm at the time, because we had this beautiful opportunity now to express that personal life's purpose in our own business, in how that business showed up in the market and how it served its community. And so a practical example, Rob, when I had bought my accounting firm, it was very standard practice, 200K timesheet revenue, and it was called Inspire Chartered Accountants. And when I found my purpose, which is to change lives, I changed the name to Inspire Life-Changing Accountants. And it sort of put us on this pathway, like a set of falling dominoes, to really ask ourselves, well, how can we as accountants really live up to that name and change the lives of our clients as we show up in the market as accountants?
And accountants listening, some of them may be surprised by that. They're super smart people. They're technically brilliant. And they go into a career where it's very black and white, it's very binary, it's very risk averse, and it's not quite chained to your desk for 10, 15 years, your career path's mapped out, you might make partner and be successful or even start your own firm, but they don't talk a lot about meaning and impact and changing lives. So this is a change in vocabulary. But in today's world, if they are looking for purpose, they perhaps do need to realign their goals career-wise.
Totally. Well, you speak about that great resignation. The truth is that we're all looking for more meaning in our work. It's a natural human tendency or desire to find that meaning and that purpose.
Yeah.
And other than on the operating table after being blindsided by cancer, I found more meaning in my role as an accountant in actually a very logical place. It was in calculations, and I'll explain the concepts here, Rob. I noticed that we as a team were very busy doing timesheets, very busy getting jobs done, very busy getting the work out the door as efficiently as we could. And we never really took the time to sort of slow down and think, well, what difference is this advice? What difference is this project, or what difference or outcome or result is this producing for our clients? And so we slowed the process down just before we sent the job out to say, well, what is the financial impact, let's call it tax savings, Rob, that our clients are experiencing as a result of implementing the advice that we've just done for them. And so we started measuring all of those tax savings, Rob. How much tax would they have paid if they didn't follow our advice, compared to how much tax they did pay as a result of our advice. And the difference was tax savings. And we took those measurements, and it gave us more reason and meaning as to how impactful our advice was, because it's now wasn't just a job that I spent the last 3 months on. We found $30,000 odd dollars in tax savings for the client. So it gave us a really nice sort of feedback mechanism that our work is making a difference. But once we had that number, we took it on to another level, and we thought, well, I wonder what our clients would think about this impact, this $30,000 in tax savings. So for those who are watching visually, we created these impact statements, and they're just A4 pages that had the name of the client and it had the dollar figure of the tax savings. And when we presented the job to the client and handed it over, we just said, hey, look, Will, we just saved you $32,546. I'm really curious, what are you going to do with your tax savings? What difference is this going to make to you and your business and your life? And so Will was able to connect with the value of what we were delivering for him as his accountant. But B, we had this really special moment where Will's answer was, in this case on the impact statement, I want to reinvest this money into the business to make a bigger impact. So
Hallelujah.
we've calculated and formalized, and more importantly, made it tangible, the impact that we're making for our clients. And so that sort of domino effect kind of built, Rob, whereby every client, every year, we would do the tax savings. We would sit down with them and say, what difference would that make? And here's another example with Jeff and Karen Nibb. We saved them 20,000 Aussie dollars, and that's going to go towards their holiday in New Zealand next year and extra cash flow for the business. So again, another win, another impact, more meaning in my work as an accountant. Another example I've got is Ray from Greenstone. We saved them $36,152. Can you see, Rob, what he said he's going to do with it?
Go on a bendy.
He's going on a bender. So in Australia, it's like when you spend a lot of money, go do lots of naughty things, go and have a drink and a party, effectively.
Got it.
So nice little funny impact there. I know this gentleman quite well. He's my dad. I didn't go on that bender with him, but as you can see, Rob, with these impact statements, we have this stacking of value and meaning and impact that we were making to the families across the other side of the table through the advice that we were giving. And so, for example, we never had retention issues or resignation issues to deal with as accounting firm owners, because our team were really deeply connected to the difference they'll make in their clients' lives. And back to that point around life-changing, we were living up to that name, all through documenting the actual impact that we were making as accountants.
Yeah. You kindly sent me a copy of your book, Stand Out, and you put images of those impact statements in the book. And it's intriguing. It speaks, doesn't it, to how accountants can better articulate the value that they bring to their clients.
Totally. And, it doesn't have to just be limited to tax savings. Like we make a huge difference in our clients' lives, improving their profits, improving the value of their businesses. We might help them out with home loans and help shave certain years off of the life of that loan. So there are so many ways that we make a difference in our clients' lives. Other than the touchy-feely, like, oh, great, I have more meaning, which is wonderful as accountants searching for purpose. The other real amazing benefit I found, Rob, is it created some real context around how we articulate our value proposition. I kind of use this formula that our price can equal our costs, which at the time were, how much time it took, plus the value. And prior to having measured our tax savings and articulated that really clearly to our clients, we struggled, as most accountants do, to articulate that value because it was quite intangible. And so the second we started sort of documenting these numerical tax savings, all of a sudden it created some great contrast to what our clients were paying, and therefore demonstrated a value proposition. Quick example, or classic example, back then our clients may have paid us about $500 a month, or 6,000 Aussie dollars, let's call it 4,000 pounds a year. So that's an expense, and many business owners feel like their accountants are just another expense on the profit and loss. But if we can show them that, yes, you're investing $500 a month, but on average, we're delivering back, $30,000 in tax savings, or $20,000 in tax savings, or $10,000 in tax savings, then they can really more easily see that value proposition. And we could say things that, like, on average, our clients have a 3 times ROI on every dollar that they spend with us in terms of tax savings. So, and it doesn't just help us find more meaning in our work day to day, but we could actually start to either have more confidence in the price that we do set and the value that's delivered, or even over time, like we did, start to increase those prices with reason as well.
Sure. My co-host Martin Bissett and I, we often talk on the show about the power of telling stories and how accountants have so many great success stories that often remain a hidden testimonial on their site somewhere, or they're not even told. And the fact that you don't get these stories out there in the public domain, or you don't solicit them from your own clients, you lose a bit of your self-worth in realizing what a difference you're actually making.
No, I'm keenly aware of that. And the key word that you said there is hidden. You know, we spend all this time, all this effort, and we create all this impact. But as long as it's sitting there hidden, it's not making any difference to us or our team or our clients.
So well-kept secret, isn't it? It's a well-kept secret.
Very, very many accountants are. And so I was really keenly aware of that fact. And so that was the birth of the impact statements. And so we leveraged them as much as we could in our offices. These impact statements would cover the walls. And, you know, we had a team of 10 after 5 years. And in all of the walls of all of the offices, these impact statements were like wallpaper. And so you could imagine the effect of the team showing up to work every day, Rob, literally being surrounded or immersed in an environment of impact and realizing that they're the ones who made that very difference. Because most importantly, the first sale is to ourselves when it comes to sales and marketing. Are we fully confident that we're making a real difference and a tangible difference in our clients' lives? So that's the first sale. The second sale is to, let's say, a prospective client. And so could you imagine, Rob, them coming into our office for their very first client meeting, walking in to sit down in our offices and looking at the elephant in the room, which is these walls literally draped with all the impact statements, all the thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tax savings and the results that we've delivered for our clients. So really powerful stuff. One of the best routines that we got into as a team is, as we started measuring these tax savings, we would take team photos. But you know, typical or standard accounting firm team photos are quite professional and rigid and cardboard and everyone's standing side by side. We would have team photos where we would take photos of the latest tax savings milestone that we had reached. So, here's a team photo with all of us around the number 3 million, because that's us reaching the $3 million in tax savings, or the $5 million, or the 7 million mark, or when I sold Inspire 5 years after I bought it, we'd reached $10 million in tax savings. And if you see each of these milestone impact photos, you can sort of see, the size of the team grew, which was wonderful. But also you can sort of see on each of these photos that the smiles on each of the team members' faces grew, because they knew they were part of something bigger than themselves. And it wasn't just this intangible, touchy-feely, oh yeah, we do good work. It was really measurable, really tangible. They had literally millions of dollars worth of measured example that lived true to that idea that as accountants, we change lives every single day.
And regular listeners will be familiar with one of my favorite quotes, which comes from Muhammad Ali, the boxer. And he said, "It ain't bragging if you've done it. It ain't bragging if you've done it." And accountants, they're not great at blowing their own trumpet. They're not great at announcing what a difference they've made. They're not great at recounting these stories. They're conservative by nature. They feel if I just do a good job, the world will be right and referrals will come to me. But there comes a time when you've got to cross over that line and say, all right, the world needs to know about the great stuff that we're doing. And even repeating back to your clients the difference that you made to them, they don't often see it themselves, do they?
Absolutely. I remember very vividly a part of the journey as these impact statements grew is we created a mission. We articulated a mission of where we're heading as a business. And at the time, Rob, we articulated as, well, we're on a mission to become Australia's most impactful accounting firm.
Right.
And, a mission on its own can sometimes sound lofty, can sometimes sound unreachable, can maybe sometimes sound disconnected, but connecting our mission of impact back to, like you described, not bragging, but the tangible deliverable results that we were delivering for our clients every single day, it made it more real. And if we put ourselves in our client's shoes, and if we put ourselves in maybe a bigger market, a prospective client who's dissatisfied with their current accountant and thinking of changing to you, then what do they really want at the end of the day? They don't necessarily want to get their tax done or their accounting done. That's kind of red tape that we're, as business owners, obliged to do. What we really want to spend our money on as business owners is to get results. And the clearer that we as accountants can articulate the results that we are generating for our clients already, the more certainty our prospective clients will have to say, well, look, yeah, you might be more expensive than my previous accountant, but I have more certainty that you're going to be able to deliver those results because of the measurement and the tangibility of what I can see, A, all over your website, B, all over your offices, and C, and all the services that you deliver back to us. So it's really game changing when we start shifting from, how do we just get red tape out the door, and to this new sort of mindset of how do we start delivering and articulating the results that our clients really want from us at the end of the day.
And I love your use of the word certainty. I'm fond of saying that people buy certainty. They don't buy vagueness. They don't buy complexity. They don't buy a myriad of choices. In fact, a confused buyer never buys. But a single outcome or focus or certainty in any way is convincing, it's persuading, it's influential in making one business owner swap from one accounting advisor to another one. We'll get you on the show another time, Harvey, to talk about growth. I know it's a pet subject of yours. How do you grow an accounting firm? You've done it. But in this book, Stand Out, it's about the standout accounting firm. And I know you've got a 9-step authority method, and people can check out the book and go into detail on that. But in an accounting firm standing out, in an age where all of the websites look the same, all of the promises are the same, the value statements are the same, how does an accounting firm stand out these days?
It's the challenge that I faced when I first bought my accounting firm, Rob. Like I mentioned, it was a fairly standard accounting practice, turning over a fairly standard 200K revenue, and we're only 2.5-man band or team at the time. And over the next 5 years, we transformed that into a standout practice. We were turning over $2 million in recurring revenue when I sold the practice, and we were twice recognized as one of the top 100 companies in Australia. And the key idea that you mentioned, Rob, and the key strategy that helped us go from standard to stand out was authority. In the beginning, when we were quote unquote nobodies, one of 13,000 accounting firms here in Australia, and we were young guys with very little perceived experience, our authority was really low. And if you imagine this sort of sea of sameness, whereby the majority of accounting firms are hidden underneath that waterline, when we have low authority, we're hidden. We're our best kept secret, like you mentioned. And what I noticed is that the higher that our level of perceived authority was, the more that we stood out from this sea of sameness. It's kind of like a iceberg that pokes out of the top of the
you get noticed,
the waterline.
You get talked about,
you get noticed, you get seen, and everything all of a sudden changes because you stand out from the rest. And so it was about how do we elevate our authority in order to stand out. And for us, what I noticed, Rob, is that accountants, at least here in Australia, are generally perceived as boring.
You went and said it, Harvey, didn't you?
No, if you didn't see on the video, I've got my inverted commas.
But it's true. Pragmatic, introvert to an extent, not really innovative, but just do what needs to be done and do the compliance and the regulatory stuff and keep people out of jail. And it's not particularly sexy or exciting on the face of it, but you're going to tell us that that's not the way to go. It's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that is a perception, and keywords is how we are seen and what that perception is. So whether it's true in all cases or not, that's sort of secondary. In our case,
the problem is some accountants see themselves that way as well, which does nothing for their own confidence and enhancing the profession as a career choice.
Totally. And, our confidence grew, and it's very different to our ego growing, but our confidence grew when we started stacking the impacts and the difference that we're making for our clients.
Yeah.
Without those measurable, tangible results, it's just ego that grows without any substance behind it. But yeah, making that shift to stand out. Like in general, accountants are seen as boring. What I noticed, Rob, is that in general, by contrast, authors tend to be seen as authorities. I knew this well because I'm a huge reader and had read many, many business books over the years, and almost idolized, the Tony Robbins of the world, the Jocko Wickilings, the Gary Vaynerchuk's, the Tony Robbins of the world, who I'd gotten to know and whose strategies and ideas really transformed my life and my business through reading the pages of their books, even though I never actually got to meet them in person. That was the power of seeing them as authorities and implementing the ideas that I had read in their books. And so what we found, Rob, the fastest way to kind of accelerate our authority and to stand out was we became authors.
Yeah.
I wrote a book, my first book as a business owner, called Cashed Up, 7 Steps to Pull More Money, Time, and Happiness from Your Business. Where is it? Here it is, my old faithful. It's so cool becoming an author, Robert. I know you've experienced this. Here's the Cashed Up book here. It was like a business card on steroids for my accounting firm at the time. It was really kind of crucial in us going from that 200K revenue to 2 million revenue. That's the upside. The good news, the bad news is this book took me 3 years to write and about $30,000 to produce. So yeah, really transformational stuff, book power, but it's tough work writing a book, like you have probably experienced being an author yourself.
But the point you're making, Harvey, is that when you start to create content as an accounting firm and as an accounting individual, maybe your firm's not on board with it, but you as a personal brand can start to put out your ideas and your thinking out there. Author is derived from, well, authority is derived from author, the Latin word. So yeah, we totally get that. It's becoming the go-to expert, the obvious expert, the go-to advisor of choice, if you like. I wrote a book on reputation. It was very much about being the obvious and standout choice for whatever it is that you do. And that's what you're encouraging accountants to get on board with.
Yeah, well, as accountants, we're geniuses. We're intellectual geniuses. All the years that we spent at university, all the degrees and CPD hours, the professional development that we do, the experience, the studies, the tax law, the case law that we've got to learn, we are literally standing on a mountain of value. The trouble is where does all that intellectual property live? Well, for the majority of us, it's here in this big, beautiful brain of ours. And what happens, you may have experienced this ever, Rob, is people go, "Hey, Rob, do you mind if I take you out for coffee and pick your brain?" Have you ever experienced that before, Rob?
Yes.
And it's a classic symptom that, all of that IP, people recognize that there's a lot of it there, but it's hidden literally inside of your head. And so people go out and pick your brains. And if they, do the courteous thing and pay for the coffee or pay for your lunch, and that takes an hour of your time, then really your effective hourly rate is, the cost of a $5 coffee or a $30 lunch per hour, which is wild. So the problem isn't, what would we write about if we were to choose to become an author, or what do we, what are the ideas if we were to produce this content? The challenge is just we've already got it there. It's just getting it out of our head and into different formats like books and videos and podcasts and keynote presentations and impact statements and posters on the walls and ebooks that we can have on our website and PDFs and brochures. There's so many things that we can do to take this hidden intellectual property and make it more tangible so that it can really work for us, as it were, a humble asset or employee of ours.
So Harvey, just in closing, you've shared a lot about how accountants can change the world and change their own mindset. Would you leave our listeners who are very big into practical advice and takeaways, into 2 or 3 tips or things that they can quickly do or quickly change to become a little bit more confident, a little bit more stand out, a little bit more impactful in their everyday jobs.
Awesome. Well, grateful that you had me here to share a little bit of my story, and I hope that story improves those listeners today. And I think that's a key word for my 3 tips that I'd love to share. As accountants, we've got an opportunity to tell better stories. And so if we were to, 1, start measuring the impact that we were giving or making in our clients' lives every time we gave them advice, whether it was tax savings or profit improvement or increased business value, we'll start to be able to begin a more meaningful story by having this more tangible results or outcomes that we're delivering for our clients. So that's step 1, measuring our impact. Step 2, ask our clients when we deliver that advice and give them that tangible tax savings or the tangible impact, ask them the question, what difference is that going to make to you and your business and your life? And what they're going to tell you, we're going to document into a quote, into a story, into an impact statement, perhaps. And what it'll start building for you is a series of stories that you and your team can tell your clients about why they get value of being a client of yours. And they can also tell those same stories to prospective clients in order to help them have that certainty about changing accountants. The third layer of stories or advice that I'd recommend is let's get our team together for a weekly routine. I called it a thank you circle, where we created 15 minutes at the end of the week to share stories amongst us about what we were grateful for achieving during the week. And inevitably, we'd tell each other these stories about the differences that we were making in our clients' lives, and help create this environment of meaning where we reinforce each other of the real difference that we're making. So there's 3 tips that I think could help improve each of our stories and help us create more impact in our lives.
They're really great, Harvey, and certainly that last one would spice up a lot of boring meetings that accountants tend to be in, sharing gratitude and sharing those stories. That's been brilliant. Thanks for inspiring us. We really appreciate your passion and your insights today.
Thank you, Rob.